Hi, Marc here with PackGoats.com. A lot of you watch me both hunt and hike and do all that stuff, and I wanted to break down what my base camp model looks like in elk camp. There's some nuances to it that you might find helpful, just things that I do to be efficient and to be comfortable, and just the things that we do. So number one is I always have a really good drying line. The reason I do that is it's just, you can take a stinky shirt, especially merino wool, put it out, let it air dry, and it loses a lot of the stink. Also, I run towels and do that sort of stuff. You can see here's my little, I run an inReach. This is the Mini. I like to be able to send out satellite text. If you're way back in, good friend of mine, you guys have seen Dick Ross in some of my videos, 72-year-old man. He just had his legs rolled over by a refrigerator-sized rock in a rock fall and no way to communicate. He laid on the mountain for 18 hours. So if you're going to be deep, you guys, have a way to communicate, have a way to get some help. These things are a couple of $100 and it could save your life. So as far as the camp goes, you can see I'm kind of a tarp dork. I hang tarps everywhere. This camp has traditionally been a camp where we've gotten soaked and just been poured on. If you've seen the Elkville videos, this is where we are. We're in Elkville. And so there's no rain in the forecast here, but in this valley, we get a ton. So we still put up tarps anyway. You can see we pack in comfortable chairs. This is an old camp. I mean, there's lots of baling twine around and stuff from old horse camps. There's water really close. We're not super close to water. We're about 75 yards off. And the reason is because when you're right on the river, it's cold. It's a little warmer when you camp off of it. We actually packed in 2 summers ago, chainsawed up a bunch of wood, split it up, and made that nice and a fun trip with the kids. We always run a big garbage sack. We burn everything that's paper. We haul out everything that's plastic. One of the things that I really love is this little shower. This thing's like ambrosia. I never try to warm it up in the sun. Sometimes I'll fill it and let it get lukewarm in the sun, but it's never warm enough. I'll just use the kettle on the fire, add that to it, and now I got a nice warm shower. It's worth its weight in gold to be able to take a shower. I always run different stacks of wood. You can see I have my little stuff, I have my big stuff, and then I have my red needles. Easiest way to start a fire is with red pine needles. If you look at them, it's like gasoline in the woods. And we always have a pile of red needles. They're over there and all that good stuff. We run a big single pot, so we'll eat both lunch and dinner as the same meal, and it just gets better throughout the day. Today's meal is chicken curry, and that stuff is one of my favorite. It is super delicious. We'll throw instant rice in there. We're feeding 5 guys, so we have 3 hunters, we have a cameraman, and we have what we call a camp jack, which is somebody who helps us around camp, cooks food, prepares stuff, brings goats up, gets them ready. It's just a lot of work to be back in here. We killed 3 bulls last year, 9.5 miles in, and just between hunting and butchering bulls and doing all that stuff, it's everything we can do. So we always have somebody come in and help us with food, and people want to come and take somebody. They'll enjoy that part. I killed my bull today, so now I'm going to be able to show you kind of how we hang meat. You should know this is that Tentipi, so we're all able to sleep in this tent. It's the Tentipi Sapphire 9. As goat packers, you're going to be able to get this tent on PackGoats.com at discount. These are actually made in Sweden. They're super ultra high quality. And the cool part is a big giant 9-person teepee, but bear in mind it's just like a 9-person tent. I would never put 9 people in there, but it'll sleep 5, and it has the ventilation system. You can have an open pit fire in them, so you don't actually have to pack in a stove. And the entire thing, floor, teepee, awning, all that stuff, 41 pounds. So that means I can put it on a goat. It's really, really cool. So if you come in here, I don't know if you're going to be able to see, but we put in cots, and I like having a camp light, so I'll just turn this on so you guys can see a little better. So here's kind of our messiness. You know, it's just what it is. I actually use the Helinox cot ones. The cot lights are really not for an adult man. They're not big enough. They can fit a child or a woman, but they're just not strong enough. So the cot ones are the ones you want. And these guys are on sleeping pads. You can see we got tons of room, and you know, again, you zip back this floor and you can have an open pit fire, and then we have a ventilation system on top that allows for, you know, cooling during the day for those awesome elk naps. For those of you that elk hunt, you know how valuable an elk nap is. So let's jump out here, show you the last couple details. We pack in a ton of our food. And again, we're eating all real food. This is not a mountain house camp. And we pack it in coolers. So we have 3 big coolers that we run. And what we do is we pack everything in frozen solid. And we put 5 pounds of dry ice in each one. After the first day in camp, our dry ice is gone. But everything's frozen so incredibly solid that we will still be thawing meat on the 6th and 7th day. So we're able to keep, and just, you know, I mean, this cooler is a mid-grade cooler. This one's a nicer one, an Arctic. These work really super well. The other thing that I've gone to is I've gone to these storage boxes. As you know, if you're a goat packer, the goats love hitting each other in the panniers. Those pack nicely in our panniers that we have on the site. I just really like these containers because they keep camp instead of piles of bags and stuff sitting everywhere. Each thing has its separate box that it goes into, and we can haul that stuff in. I always bring in a very big first aid kit. This even has a splint in it. So, and the reason I have that one is because I thought maybe one of these days I might have to splint one of the goats. As far as tarps, you can see again, I have lots of tarps, and I bring in always an extra bed pad, and then I do bring in a additional liner. So in case we get some really cold weather, you can throw this liner inside your sleeping bag and it increases it by like 15 degrees. So it's pretty handy to have around. So I always do those. So let's move over. I always pack my saddles and my goat coats, and I keep them in one spot. We just got home with this bowl and we were tired. Normally that's a little better organized. It's kind of just a pile right now, but you know, that's where we run all our saddles and that sort of thing. I always find one central location where everybody knows where the leashes go. It's easy to lose track of these. I have a system. When we pull a goat off, we always hang it here. When we tie them up, we always pull it back off. We don't leave them tied around the woods, that sort of thing. And anyway, leashes are always hung. That's pretty much it other than the meat part. So if we go to the meat part, we use synthetic bags. They are the way to go. The cotton ones, they suck. They're one-time use. These are really strong. You can hang them. This camp, again, has a bunch of baling twine in it. Normally, I carry a lot of 550 cord, so that's what I would normally use. We just use the baling twine that's around in this one. And we have a couple of meat poles. I have a tarp up for the goats. If it starts raining, all the goats can fit under here. There's no rain in the forecast, so I haven't worried about that. I let them free range while I'm here during the day. They all have bells on, so I can hear them. They feed around the camp. They always kind of stay within jingle distance. And once we're at night, everybody gets tied up. This is one of the ways I like to tie up goats. I like ground lines, kinda, or high lines, but I actually really like deadfall. So I'll go in and I'll put these deadfall logs in here, and I can actually put a number of goats underneath this shelter really efficiently on these deadfall logs, because if you tie up a goat on this side, he'll lay here, and then another goat will tie up and lay on this side. And so it's pretty efficient based on how you tie them up, how many goats you can get under a tarp on a deadfall line, because they kind of consider this log a physical separation. So it's kind of a goat thing. I've had a lot of luck with that. The other last thing I want to mention is that people are going to watch this video and say, gosh, Mark, you got stuff sitting everywhere. What about bears? I got thousands of trail miles. I've never had bear problems. I've never had bears in camp because I don't camp where a bunch of other people camp. And bears are habitual, and once you're in these subdivision style camps, or you're in these parks where people are camping in them over and over again and leaving dirty camps, that's when I'm really careful with bears in camp. But in a camp like this that gets used once a year by me, I just am not super scared about bears coming into camp, and if there is, I'm armed and ready. You can see my tents there. My goats are here. They all have bells on. If I hear jingle, 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 rather than just the jingle, 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 then I know I'm going to come out blazing and take care of the goats and make sure they're safe. So I hope that was helpful. I kind of wanted to show you how I broke down the camp and what it looks like. Again, you can see we're not very far in terms of where we sleep, and you can see this place will be absolutely cleaned up, and when we're done, we will actually rake in where the goats have dug out these beds. We'll rake everything back in. We'll actually pick up the poop and throw it into the bushes if there's piles. We like to have this camp look like we've never been here. So I hope that's helpful. PackGoats.com.